And now, your host, CEO of the Palmer Group, Shelly Palmer.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shelly Palmer, CEO of the Palmer Group, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Innovation Series Summit. I'd like to thank our announcer, AI voiceover British female. It's a text-to-speech AI that was modeled after a British female voice. And I'd also like to thank the composer of our theme music, IVA, which is an initialism for Artificial Intelligence Virtual Artist. We'll talk much more about AI throughout the summit. We have an exceptional group of guests today. I'm going to chat with Samsung Electronics CMO Wanda Young about Samsung's commitment to innovation. Google AI product lead Barak Turovsky will share his thoughts about the incredible advances we've seen in AI this past year and what's coming next. And Facebook's Vice President Global Marketing, Carolyn Everson, and I will have a frank conversation about the pandemic, Facebook, and business. But before we get started, look, the politics of the last couple of weeks have made an incredibly tough year even tougher. We're going to have to talk about politics today. The subject is unavoidable. But I think it's just as important to acknowledge the immense toll the pandemic has taken. So many lives lost, so many heartbreaking stories. Truly no one's unaffected, but I'm hopeful. While it's true, America's healthcare system is being stretched to its limits, and while it's also true that COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are at an unacceptable level, there's some good news. There are several different vaccines being dispensed, and there's been a great deal of progress with therapeutics. Conventional wisdom says that we're going to be in for a long winter, but between the vaccine program and improvements in treatment protocols, we should begin to emerge from the pandemic towards the end of 2021. McKinsey has a well-researched article on the subject. Now, look, I have no way of knowing if this is true or it's just wishful thinking, but it's the time frame that's most often quoted. A lot can happen between now and then, and no matter how tough times are right now, and no matter what this looks like, the pandemic will ultimately end. When it does, we're going to be in a new world with new challenges and new opportunities. Some people, myself included, like to say we've experienced something like 10 years of social innovation in the past 10 months. That's a great soundbite, but how will that accelerated innovation change the way we spend our days? What will the new normal look like? What's going to go back to the way it was? And what's changed forever? A good place to start is right here, right now. Most every one of you is sitting in front of some version of a TV studio, whether it's your smartphone, your laptop, or something more elaborate. I am too. The 2021 Shelly Palmer Innovation Series Summit is being streamed live from a spare bedroom in my apartment that I converted into a combination home office and 4-camera video studio. Let's do a quick tour. I got a couple different shots set up here. This is my, he's a tech consultant shot. You can notice the dashboards and blinking lights in the background and all the whiz-dings. Just got to spin around here, a quick tap on the foot pedal, and I'm ready for my let's have an interview shot on Zoom or Teams or WebEx or whatever. Camera 3 is an old HD Handycam on a boom arm. That's for product demos. And camera 4 is my smartphone, so I can do some handheld shots. Camera 1, camera 2, the lighting and the audio are all studio quality. And the broadband connection here is the best that Fios has to offer. Is this the future? It certainly is the present. We're streaming this live on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and LinkedIn Live. Welcome, everybody. Please introduce yourself on chat, tell us where you're watching from, and feel free to ask questions. Also, please chat with each other. That's the coolest part of this whole thing. So again, we're streaming this on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and LinkedIn Live. And when we're done, it'll be available on demand. The most important thing about this setup and this workflow is that it's not unique. All of you have the power to do this with the kit you have in front of you right now. So let's think about what that means. Will you start hosting your own shows? Some of you already do. Will you start creating and hosting your own seminars and summits? Many of you already do. Video conferencing is here to stay, and it's already having a fairly dramatic impact on business travel, business culture, business decision-making, business development, career development. I'll argue that there is no aspect of our lives that will not be forever changed by the video capabilities we've all been forced to learn during the pandemic. So what does that mean? Are we going to need video rooms in our homes? Will we need to divide our living spaces in new ways? Will you need to video equip your home office? How about a video equipped homeschooling space or a video equipped workout or recreational space? Will the cameras always be on, or will it be voice controlled? Is this just something we need to do for a few more months until life gets back to normal, or at least till it gets back to the new normal? And what will that look like? In our 2020 Trends and Insights report, I wrote about the superaging of America, how some states were already close to having 20% of their population over the age of 65. In just a year, two things have really changed. First, the pandemic has taken so many seniors that government statisticians believe it will reduce the average life expectancy in the United States by 1.13 years. But averages rarely, if ever, tell a meaningful story, and this stat is no exception. There's no such thing as an average COVID victim. Demographically, white Americans will see lifespans reduced by roughly 8 months. Black and Latino populations will see declines of roughly 2 and 3 years, respectively. Among other things, this will impact every investment thesis regarding superaged audience segments. It's going to change calculations across a wide range of categories, from broadcast television to pharma to CPG to healthcare. And the follow-on stats add even more uncertainty. The 2010s were projected to be the decade of big city growth, but the new U.S. Census Bureau data tells a completely different story. The migration out of the major metropolitan areas began a few years ago, but the pace has clearly picked up this year. And the big questions are easy to ask. Can you make a living outside the city? And can a city person find happiness as a country person? I'm sure each of you has your own story that you can tell. From a work perspective, this migration is empowered by technology, and the tech is getting better every day. What does this mean for the future of major metros, for the future of work, politics, tax rolls? The list of follow-on effects is vast. And while we're thinking about video, let's take a minute to talk about what's happening to the business of television. In 2006, I wrote a book called Television Disrupted: The Transition from Network to Networked TV. Aside from patting myself on the back for predicting how and when the current streaming transition would happen, and aside from blatantly, shamelessly plugging the book, which you can find on Amazon, by the way, the book explored the impact democratized production technology would have on the then nascent digital on-demand economy. And it also posited the amplification of the attention economy. Back in 2006, the thesis of the book, The Transition from Network to Networked TV, was a purely intellectual exercise. The technology simply didn't exist. To be honest, predicting that everyone would have their own personalized streams of democratized on-demand content really didn't prepare me for the emotional impact that the transition was going to have. Look, from the first cave painting to the present, the job of every piece of content ever created was and is to get your attention. It almost goes without saying that time is everyone's scarcest resource. So it's easy to understand why the accelerated and unprecedented volume and velocity of content has totally changed the rules of engagement. Now, more than ever, only the most extreme content, and you can define that for yourself, is able to cut through the clutter. The consequences of this extremification are obvious. Add in new AI-assisted production techniques, and you've got a deepfake Christmas message from the Queen.
So much of our world today comes to us through these screens, which brings me back to that question of trust, of whether what we see and hear is always as it seems. On behalf of myself, your Queen, and all at Channel 4, I trust you will have the very merriest of Merry Christmases.
There's a lot of hype about AI. Let's just say you'll find these two letters in way more product descriptions than you should. But just because marketers have decided to abuse the initialism doesn't mean that we haven't seen real advances this past year. OpenAI's GPT-3, the third generation of the generative pre-trained transformer, can do a wide array of NLP tasks, such as writing in the style of Shakespeare, or writing reports, resumes, instruction manuals, translating plain language descriptions into computer programming languages like HTML or JavaScript, and a whole bunch more. We could spend the whole summit just talking about GPT-3. Can it pass the Turing test? It did pretty well, but remember, the Turing test isn't for computers to pass. It's for humans to fail. At last year's summit, we showed some examples of the most convincing deepfakes we could find. So let's have a quick look at the state of the art.
America, you blame me for interfering with your democracy, but I don't have to. You are doing it to yourselves. Polling stations are closing, you don't know who to trust, you are divided. There are strings we can pull, But we don't have to. You are pulling them for us.
The first time I met him, I go, he comes up to me and he had his cigar in his mouth and he goes, what is Jeff and Peter? That's his hair and makeup guys.
Yeah.
And I go, I don't know, I'll find them. And he goes, find them, show me your leadership capabilities.
Yep, now you can look and sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger. These capabilities are very close to becoming commoditized. For some quick examples, just Google AI voiceover generators. Some of the better ones are already good enough to voice an audiobook or an instructional video. There are just a remarkable number of things you can do with AI, but there are an equally remarkable number of things you can't do with it. Here are a couple paintings created by AI. There are several galleries that feature unique original works. Some sell for thousands of dollars. Is this art? That's your call. As you know, this is the time of year we publish our Trends and Insights report. You can visit shellypalmer.com to sign up for early access. This year's report acknowledges the known unknowns and offers a framework to help you answer key questions. Many trends, like working from home, issues with vaccination distribution and adoption, and government regulation of big tech, are easy to see. We've tried to dig a little deeper, and we think this year's work will enhance your decision-making and help you create value for your business. Again, you can visit shellypalmer.com to request early access.